Welcome. This is part 2 of the SAT practice test number 1 math section review, and we're going to jump right into question number 12. The graph of y equals f of x is shown, where the function f is defined by f of x equals ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. A, b, c, and d are constants. For how many values of x does f of x equal 0? So all this is asking is how many times the line, or the function, cross the x-axis. And we can see it happens here, here, and here. So that's 3 times, so we're going to go with answer choice C. So for question 13, Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. Each party hat cost $3 and each cupcake cost $1. Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats. How many cupcakes did she buy? So we know she bought 10 hats. So to get how much she spent on hats, we're going to multiply that by the cost, so $3 per hat, and the hats are going to cancel, which is going to give us 3 times 10, or 10 times 3 is 30, so $30. So that's how much you spent on party hats. We're now going to subtract that from 71, which we know she spent in total, and that's going to give us $41. So she spent $41 on cupcakes. Now we need to take the amount she spent on cupcakes and divide that by the cost per cupcake. So we're going to do 41 divided by $1 per cupcake. And that's going to give you, the dollars are going to cancel out. So you're going to treat this as 41 times 1 cupcake for $1. The dollars are going to cancel out, and that's going to leave you with 41 cupcakes. And that's going to be your final answer. Question 14. What is one of the solutions to the given equation? So there are 2 ways to do this. We can use the quadratic formula, or we can factor. I'm going to demonstrate the quadratic formula first. So quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all of that over 2a. We're going to look at our equation. A, the coefficient in front of z squared, is 1. B, the coefficient in front of z, is 10. C, the coefficient for the constant, which is negative 24, is just going to equal negative 24. So we're going to plug that in. Negative 10 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 10 squared, minus 4ac. So a times c is 1 times negative 24, which is negative 24. That multiplied by 4 is 4 times negative 24, which is negative 96. But you're subtracting it, so you're going to add 96. And then all over 2 times 1, so 2. Negative 10 plus or minus the square root of, this is going to be the square root of 10 squared, which is 100, plus 96 is 196, over 2. The square root of 196 is 14. So we're going to say negative 10 plus or minus 14 over 2. Negative 10 plus 14 over 2 is going to equal 2. Negative 10 minus 14 over 2 is going to equal negative 12. So those are your 2 answers. If you're going to do this by factoring, you need to find 2 numbers that sum to 10 and multiply to negative 12. So when we look at the factors of 24, we have 12 and 2, we have 8 and 3, and we have 6 and 4. The only 2 which can sum to 10 are 12 and 2 and 6 and 4. However, you need them to be different signs because your constant or coefficient is negative for negative 24. So you need either negative 6 and positive 4 or negative 4 and positive 6. Neither of those sum to 10. So you're left with 12 and 2. And you need the bigger number is going to be the positive one. So you're going to have positive 12 and negative 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to have z minus, or plus 12, rather, z minus 2 equals 0. And the 2 solutions are once again going to be at z equals 2 and z equals negative 12. So either way you decide to do it, you'll get the same answer. Question 15. Bacteria are growing in a liquid growth medium. There were 300,000 cells per milliliter during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. how many cells will there be per milliliter will there be after 15 hours? So we're going to write this out as an equation. We start with 300,000. And it's going to double, so multiply by 2. How often? Every 3 hours. So we can write this as 2 to the power of, we can either write it as 2 to the power of t, where t is every 3 hours, or we can write it as 2 to the power of t over 3, where t is every hour. And then we're just going to plug in, it's asking for 15 hours, so we're going to plug in 300,000 times 2 to the 15 over 3 is 5. And 2 to the 5th power is 32. So now we're just going to take 300,000 multiply by 32. Nine, 6, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And we get 9.6 million is our answer for question 15. Question 16. Which expression is equivalent to 6x to the 8th y squared plus 12x squared y squared? So what we have to remember here is when we have x to the a times x to the b, that's going to be equal to x to the a plus b. And the other rule is when we have x to the a raised to the b, that's going to equal x to the a times b. And you can switch the order of a and b for either of these steps. So I'll move this over here and shrink it, just because that's not super useful for now. What we're going to do is we're going to calculate each of these and see if any of them are equivalent to this. So for a, we have 6x squared y squared times 2x to the 6. So that's going to give us 12x to the 8 y squared, which is not equal. For this one, we're going to get 6x to the 6 y squared. Again, not equal. Here, we're going to distribute when doing the addition. So we're going to get 6x to the 8 y squared plus 12x squared y squared. And we check and we see that actually is what we're looking for. But just to confirm, we can do answer choice D as well. That's going to give us 6x to the 6th y squared plus 12x squared y squared, which is again not what we're looking for. So C is going to be our answer. All right, heading on to question 17. A neighborhood consists of a 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3,934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3,934 represents this situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? So we know that x will refer to the park. And we know that because it's a 2-hectare park. We're told so in the question. So we're looking for the variable between x and y that has a coefficient of 2. That's x. So we know that refers to the park. So we can remove the answers that have to do with the residential area. So that removes B and that removes D. Now, what we're left between is the average number of trees per hectare in the park and the total number of trees in the park. So if we think about this, one way to think about this is imagine a scenario where all of the trees in the neighborhood are in the park. That's to say there are no trees in the residential area. This equation, this 2x plus 35y equals 3,934, should represent the number of trees in the neighborhood. If all of the trees are in the park, that means plugging in for x should give you 3,934. So if the average number of trees per hectare is x, if we know that all of the 3,934 trees in the park are in the neighborhood or in the park, that means that there are 3,934 trees in the park, which means the average number of trees per hectare, you just divide by the amount of hectares, which will give you this. 1967. This number, the average number of trees per hectare, when you then multiply by 2 again, will give you 3,934. On the other hand, if it's the total number of trees in the park, when you multiply by 2, you're going to multiply 3,934 times 2. You're obviously going to get something bigger than 3,934, so that doesn't make sense. So by sort of approaching the question from reasoning through the possible scenario in which there are no trees in the residential area and only trees in the park, we can see that A is the only answer choice that's left that makes sense. All right, so question 18. The graph shows the relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A on the x-axis and the number of shares of stock from company B on the y-axis that Simone can purchase. Which equation represents this relationship? So what do we see right away? We see that we have a y-intercept of 40. Right? That means when x equals 0, y is equal to 40. So for all of these, let's first plug in 0 for x and see if we get 40 for y. If we plug in 0 here, we get y equals 12, so that's not correct. If we plug in 0 here, we get 12y equals 480. Y equals, that will give you 40. If we plug in 0 for c, for x, for answer choice C, that gives us 8. That's incorrect. If we plug in 0 for D, we get 8y equals 480. Y equals 60. So that's also incorrect. So just by using the y-intercept, we've eliminated all the other answer choices, so we know that B is our answer. Circle A has a radius of 3n, and circle B has a radius of 129n, where n is a positive constant. The area of circle A is how many times the area of circle B. So what do we know about the formula for the area of a circle? We know it's pi r squared, where r is the radius. So for each of these, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in either 3n or 129n for r. And we want to know how many times greater is B than A. So what we do is we do pi 129n squared for pi 3n squared. And what do we notice? The pi's are going to cancel. And we're going to be left with 129n, that quantity squared, over 3n squared. And we know that this is equivalent to 129n over 3n squared. So we can first divide 129 by 3, and then get our answer. And it will be equivalent to if you were to actually calculate this out. So we can do 3, the n's cancel clearly. So we can do 3, 9, 0, 4, 12, 0, 9, 3. So that gives us 43. So our answer is 43 squared. So when we look at which of these could be equivalent to 43 squared, it's clearly not 43. It's clearly not 43 times 2. And it's clearly not 43 times 3. So the only answer choice left is D. If you were to actually calculate this out, you would see that 43 squared is 1,849. All right, so moving on to question 20. The frequency table summarizes the 57 data values in the data set. What is the maximum data value in the data set? So we see all the data values. It's just the maximum, so the highest value, and we can see that's 14, right? Because it needs to be in the data set, so it has to have a frequency of greater than 0. And the highest number in the data values that has a frequency of greater than 0 is 14. So 14 is our answer. Now, if there was something here that said 15 and it had a frequency of 0, our answer would still be 14 because 15 is not in the data set. It has a frequency of 0, therefore it's not there. All right, for question 21. A circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2, 4 and 2, 14. An equation of this circle is x minus 2 squared plus y minus 9 squared equals r squared, where r is a positive constant. What is the value of r? So a quick way to do this, you can plug in either of the endpoints and just solve for r. So if we plug in 2, 4, we get 2 minus 2 squared plus 4 minus 9 squared equals r squared. This is 0. So we get negative 5 squared equals r squared. 25 equals r squared. R equals the square root of 25. We know that r is positive, so we know it can't be negative 5, so r will equal 5. And just to check, we can also plug in 2 comma 14 and do the same thing. We still get 2 minus 2 squared plus 14 now minus 9 squared equals r squared. This is 5 squared equals r squared. Same thing, 25 equals r squared. R equals 5. All right, so I think we're going to leave it off there for part 2. If there's anything that was unclear or you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to the comments or potentially make a new video if something needs additional clarification. If there are any future video topics you'd like to see, please let me know. I plan to do deep dives into math and statistics concepts, as well as some coding and programming concepts. So if that's something you're interested in, please stay tuned for that. And yeah, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps get these videos out, and it gives me the feedback to continue making videos and giving you the content that you'd like to see. So thank you, really appreciate it, and have a nice day.